Hello everyone, this is yet another episode of Career Talks, and in this special episode we have a panel discussion about the current state of affairs in the job market and about the future of the job market. Today we have three distinguished guests, Maura Declercq-Mindria, Thomas Hubbuch and Hans Constandt. Please stay tuned and enjoy. Firstly, I'd like to ask the guests to introduce themselves. Maura, could you please start?
Of course. Thank you so much for having us here. Looking forward to the discussion. So my name is Maura. I'm the founder and managing partner at Staff, Europe Recruitment and Consulting. Staff is an international boutique search and selection agency, and we specialize in executive search and the search of senior tech profiles within the European STEM industries. And we started working on the American markets as well since not so long ago. So we help companies grow and scale Europe-wide and now also in the States.
Perfect. Hans?
Hello, I'm Hans Constandt, live in Belgium, happy dad, 3 kids, have a background in corporates and startups. I'm a data geek and been a founding CEO with Ontofols. I'm not an expert by far, so I'm going to make a note here. I'm just a passionate entrepreneur in digital health.
Perfect. And Thomas?
I'm Thomas, and I live partly in Belgium as Hans, and I'm suffering under the temperatures at this very moment because I just returned from Spain 1 day ago. I still have to adapt. Despite all that, I used to be 15 years the CEO of a sugar company with around 1,000 people. And I did something out of gut feeling when I was CEO, which I call today unbossing. And unbossing is also my passion today, which I do together with my partners in the consulting firm Highfluence. And I'm an expert in unbossing, and that means I'm an expert in working environments which people like today. And I'm an expert, unfortunately, also in working environments which people do not like at all anymore today.
Thank you, Thomas, for sharing. And I think this is a good occasion to start a discussion about working environments today. So in your opinion, how did the expectations of today's employees towards the working environments and working conditions changed compared to 5 years ago?
This is a wonderful question. And the difference is that the old world, the traditional world, is organized in what we call command and control. And command and control means that the employees are not only being told what to do exactly, but even worse, they are being told how to do it exactly. I think everybody of us knows the famous job descriptions. I admit here, I used to write job descriptions even myself. It is something which I would say my generation still accepted, at least in the first years of their careers. And what I see today's generation of talents not accepting anymore at all. So in other words, even if you are a company with a flashy brand name, with tremendous consumer recognition, and you are still organized in command and control, you will have a problem staying relevant in 5-10 years into the future, because you will not be able to attract and keep the talent you need. And that is exactly also the reason why these rather traditional companies are coming to us for unbossing journeys. That is where the pressure is coming from. That is where they see for the first time we cannot go ahead like that anymore.
Thank you so much. And if I could add to this, I think that today's skillful management indeed is crucial, and we have so many different types of management popular today. And for instance, the servant style of management represented, for instance, by Jack Ma, the CEO of Alibaba Group. And also Google's history, I think, is a good example that giving employees free hand and room for creativity pays off both for the employees and for the company itself. As Google is dogmatic about giving their engineers 20% of the time for developing their own projects under the umbrella of the company, and that proved to be an amazing way to stimulate creativity within the company. And Maura, would you like to contribute to this topic?
Absolutely. Where to begin? I have a ton of things to add to that, but I totally agree with what Thomas has said, and we are coming from this. Well, let me contextualize a bit. I love contextualizing. So we are coming from Taylorism, basically. So this is this control and command system that Thomas has just mentioned. And we took this historical direction since this Industrial Revolution from this centralized control system to having a system where technology became an enabler and a disruptor. And if you look at the history of mankind, a large part of it and the acceleration and the progresses that have been made lately have been due to technology. So there are a lot of implications of this. The old ways of working obviously don't translate anymore in this new online post-pandemic environment. I always like to give the example of theater versus cinema. When the medium of cinema has been invented, we started by applying these old theater techniques to it, and very quickly we find out that cinema was a medium of its own. It needed its own techniques, its own systems to properly function and work. And this is what is happening nowadays. And it's actually a beautiful evolution, because a lot of people, are talking about old ways of working or going back to the situation pre-pandemic. I don't think this is going to happen ever, because we live in a different world, literally. So we are seeing a lot of asynchronous working. People need a lot more writing skills since the presential meetings are becoming less and less. So you need very strong communication skills, specifically in writing. It becomes more and more important. I would say, we reduced meetings a lot, I feel. Even if at the beginning we tried to have all of these board meetings and all of these dreadful long corporate meetings, we tried to transmute them in a lot of Zoom meetings. I feel we are stepping more and more away from this nowadays, and we see, I think we see more efficiency. We also see more technological tools empowering this remote working situation, which is a good thing. And to answer your question, what people expect nowadays, I think, is radical transparency, trust, collaboration. People need to be empowered to feel that the leaders within the companies are empowering them, are giving them enough autonomy to still be productive. Because if we look at the productivity numbers, they have not fallen at all. On the contrary, it's not because you let somebody work remotely and you have them come into the office 1 or 2 days that the productivity drops. It's important to have a strong purpose as a company and to align your employees behind it, giving them a sense of being part of the team. I think collaboration is becoming very, very important, because the way I see it is we are going away from these typical hierarchical structures. We're going away from these old ways of working, and we will see a lot more project teams being put in place. So I don't believe in functions anymore. I think where we used to be put in a box with Taylorism, where literally everyone was an operator of a machine or had one specific task to perform, nowadays we look at a range of skills and talents and passion within people, and how these talents and passions can fit together in project teams. So I really believe we are moving to these project teams, agile, lean, and I can go on and on, but I'm going to stop here.
Maura, of course I have something to add. This is another historical moment, because for the first time in my life, I hear this comparison of yours of the transition from theater to cinema into the new world, and how you describe that within the new world, within the new technical capabilities of the cinema, they still applied, and I guess they did that for years, they still applied the rules of the old world, of the theater, right? So they said, oh, listen, guys, we have now this wonderful new technical environment. It's called cinema. But we use it like we did our theaters for many, many years, and how we are used to it, right? And this is exactly, I love it, because this is exactly what is happening, Maura. A whole generation of managers, of CEOs, of boards of directors who grew up and were successful in Taylorism. They were successful in command and control, in stable markets, you know, with every now and then a new product, you know, an even better Mercedes S-Class, even better than the old one. That was innovation for them. That's what they called innovation. And this is a wonderful comparison, and I love it. And I have it already now in my head, and I will use it 100 times, and I will always mention you. The transition from theater to cinema. I love it. Thank you.
A lot has been said, right? So I think Thomas and Maura already said a lot. I think also transparency is key, trust is key, flat teams is key. So from my background, I was lucky, right? I've lived pretty globally. I've worked 3 years in the university, 3 years as a consultant, 10 years in a corporate, and then a startup, right? So I've seen quite a bit. I was very happy, in fact, to work at Eli Lilly. I think some companies are better than others in stimulating talent. And that's the point, is how do you attract talent? How do you stimulate talent? And how do you incentivize talent? And definitely, Thomas, unbossing is key. So that's one thing. Of course, it's very different in a corporate of 30,000 people than in a startup where you start with 2-3 passionate people by this definition, right? And then you grow it. But what I learned is, even at Eli Lilly, when I worked there, they stimulated entrepreneurship. So you were able, with flat and small teams, to work and to be agile. And I think you also see the winners. I think one of the great examples right now in big corporates is, to my opinion, how the CEO of Novartis is leading the company, right? Vas. He's doing a great job at that. And in fact, this morning, there was a LinkedIn post from an HR person all of you should read, from Nazim Umlo. He's talking about the Data 42 project. And I don't have any shares or any connections with the guy. I just love what they do. But look at what these guys are doing and how they're picking it up in a corporate. And it's all about embossing. It's all about talent. It's all about stimulating people. It's all about transparency. And so to come back to that, of course, if you're the founding CEO of a company, you can do a lot, right? And even it's even better than the big companies. Big companies, it's a system, right? It's like a big boat. And I used to call them Titanic, but I don't do, because the Titanic sinks. So that's a bad example. But you know, if you want to turn the Titanic, and you know you have to turn, it's still difficult to turn. And so what I learned is not to fight the system. So it's nice to say unbossing. It's nice to say we have the old management, but transitioning won't happen in one day. So you need time. And so what I learned is, of course, I see the startups and the entrepreneurs and the innovators like being the zodiacs on the side of it. So these guys should be in front and look, and there's an iceberg there, and then you can move. But don't stay in your boat and don't attract these talents to do things. So I like that a lot. And in my company, you know, and now I'm still a board member, but I'm operationally out of the company onto force. But great company, of course. And there, when I hired people, it was all about passion. And I made a lot of mistakes. I'm by far an expert in HR, right? So I made a lot of mistakes there. But for me, you have trust and you can only lose it. That's the starting point. And I look for passionate, I look for people who are honest. And you know, when I hired, if the person was 60 years old or if the person was 18, I didn't care. It was not about you're a PhD or you're not. It's about who is the best person for the job and align on that and be an open team and talk about that. And then things start to really work well. When things start to turn bad is, I think, where I see in companies, also in startups, is when typically you have then incoming CEOs or you have people coming in who are kind of the old school and they say, we come from corporate, we need to scale up. And then they come in with their ideas. So we're lucky now to have good people, but I see in some startups and also in corporates is when you have that command and control and it's kind of my way or the highway, and there's a one-way communication, they fail miserably because the team is not motivated, the talents go away, and there's an expression in French, I'm trying to say it, but it's an expression about people who are disgusted, right? Les dégoûtés, il y a seulement les dégoûtants qui restent. And you have to be very careful that you keep your talents close to you and that you're able to attract talents. And please motivate these people. And they don't stay for a salary. Of course, the salary has to be right. They stay for a vision. They stay for a passion. They stay for something that they believe in, the why and the purpose. And what I sensed, and that's my at least an experience I can share, is we were at Ontivo's extremely good to attract talent because we had the why, we had the purpose. People who join us is that this is great, this is something I want to work for. And they could have a job anywhere, but they choose for us because we had this purpose, because we really wanted to help patients with data. And if you leave that and you believe that and you're authentic as a leader, you're inspiring, then you hire people. And I told them, if I was not the best developer, I have been a developer, but if I have to bring coffee or wine gums or M&Ms to get the deadlines, I'll do that. I don't care. And I was a CEO, but I said, chief everything officer, right? So let me know how I can help you. That's what a manager should do, is remove the barriers of your good people so that they can do their job as best as possible.
And relating to this point, I like to add that today it also happens more and more often that CEOs of companies also come to the stage, so they are not only like behind the curtains anymore, but also come to the stage, show their faces. And I see more and more often that they start their own YouTube channels and speak about the mission, speak about the inner workings of the company in front of the cameras to share with their leads, with the potential clients. But that also attracts talent, that also attracts good employees. And I have to say it works for me too. So I was contacted by many talented subcontractors who noticed me online and noticed what I do. They enjoyed to see what they saw, and they contacted me asking for possibilities to collaborate. So I think building a brand by showing your face and talking about what you do openly and being transparent really works well for both for the sales, but also for attracting talent. And second thing I'd like to mention is that today, especially after the pandemic, employees no longer expect to work in the office, and the most preferred model is a hybrid model in which you can flexibly change between working in the office and working at home. And even the companies well known for their attempts to always bring teams physically together, such as Google, start changing their practices. And starting from October this year, for instance, Google Warsaw will switch the default mode of working from on-site work to more flexible working schemes. And this is absolutely necessary for them to attract the best engineers. Again, because the expectations changed so much in the recent years.
I think you're mentioning two things, but I want to add a nuance. This is something I struggled a lot with, is, as a founding CEO, when you have a good story, when everything is going great, you're fundraising, you have great customers, people are excited, you get on panels, you get keynotes. It's kind of fun and no fun, because there's this thing that people also sometimes call the imposter syndrome. So so I don't want to be in the spotlights. Honestly, I don't even like to be in the spotlights. When I had the biggest fulfillment is when a teammate is in the spotlights and everybody applauds him or her. That's where I get fulfillment. But of course, you're kind of the face of the company, right? So the nuance I want to bring about these YouTube channels, I don't like too much, might be too provocative, so you can cut it out later if you want, Natalia, but I don't like people to have YouTube channels. I like stories to have YouTube channels. I like values to have YouTube channels. So also for us, it was company first. So I said, if ego kicks in, you're out. It's not about ego, but that also counts for myself. It counts for everyone. So company first, absolutely. So, and that's the authenticity you need to bring. So I would say, yes. And yes, I see it because people say, but Hans, you give keynotes and you kind of like it. My wife was saying, I don't believe you that you don't like to give keynotes. And I said, yeah, I'm nervous. And honestly, I don't like it. And I don't like to stand in front of a lot of people and talk. But when you look at me, I am, because I'm passionate. I believe in what I do. I want to do something different for the world. I want to help the world. And you know why I like keynotes? When in the front rows or later on, somebody comes to me with sparks in their eyes and said, you inspire me. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And can you help me with this? That's why you do it for. It's to inspire people. It's to really see that energy flows and it's a positive energy and you help people. So in that said, I think in Flanders / Belgium, we have some great stories. Look up what Colibra is doing. So Colibra started with 3 founders, Felix van der Malen, Stijn Christians, and Peter de Leen here. Well, you run up into these guys, they're normal guys. They're not blasé, they're open. You can
Hans,
talk to them.
Did you mention a female name there, or are we talking about only male?
These are
founders?
3 males. Sorry, yeah, I don't think yet, but there's some good females, like Gwendoline, and there's others. But at this point, look at Colibra. They're a unicorn, of course. They get all the attention. Odo was in the news some time ago. They got all the attention, which is normal. But look at this guy, right? He was just there. He's open. He talks. When you sit, when you meet him, it's not a Michelin star, which was kind of more in the fancy wine. You know, it's in the McDonald's. It's a pizza. It's a baguette. So be normal, act normal, and that's what I like about people is staying humble, believing in what you do, and inspiring people. Look at what Zong is doing. So Zong, he started. I know the guy, right? I first met him, and Zong will forgive me if I say so, at IMEC, and he was sitting there and coding and was like the geeky guy. But now this guy is doing delivery. He will have the next unicorn, right? And he talked to me about HR. He's much better than I am, right? And he said, you know, now, and this is maybe a good bridge to the second part of how are people going to work? Is it hybrid or not? And he said, Hans, I don't hire my team local anymore. You know, my VP sales is in Dublin. My VP engineering is in Lisbon. And then I have 2 people in Berlin, because now with Corona, everybody's used to it. And he said, you know what it is? And I strongly believe in that too. I worked at Lilly, and it was also global. And when you have like a Chinese guy, when you have a German guy, a UK guy, a Spanish guy, and then two US guys, you know, that's a Meltkruis. How do you say that in German? But bringing all of these insights together, and I'm born in Africa, so I'm a white African, right? I'm a positive, I'm enthusiastic, I believe in the world. But when you bring these attitudes together, it's so much better than when you have all the same cultures in the same way. And that's what Zong is also doing with Deliverect. And I think that's the new way of working, right? The world is flat. Thomas Friedman said it a long time ago. The world is flat, it's over. So connect, talk to each other. And I hope soon that we will be able to travel, because I still like the face-to-face. I miss that a lot, but you can do a lot. And I think teams are flat. The world is flat. You can hire everywhere. Be a little bit afraid, of course, if you're 9 hours away, it's more difficult, of course, but still people do it. So it's a new way of working that's coming for sure.
Can I add a little nuance to that? Just a second, Natalia, I'll be very brief. I actually agree with most of what you said, Hans, except the part where, sorry, you don't like that people have their own YouTube channels. And I understand why you said it, and I understand your point. However, people work with people, and authenticity and human skills become more and more important. So yes, you can inspire from the story of a company, from the purpose and the vision of a company, but you can also inspire from your own geekiness or your own personality, you know? So I think human skills will grow in importance exponentially in the future, since we live in this high-tech world where, you know, most repetitive things that humans do can be automated and will be automated, I hope, in the future. A lot of them already are. And I think companies have to maintain this very strong personal relationship with their customers, but also with their employees. And they do that through, you know, with the people. It's people working with people. So in this sense, I feel doesn't matter if you have a YouTube channel in your own name or if it's in the name of the company. It's just a little nuance I wanted to add.
Yeah, but I would
Maura,
agree.
just a second, Hans, because Maura, I also wanted to chime in exactly on that. And Hans, it's fascinating because you mentioned Vas, the CEO of Novartis. And now I have a question. Who do you think has more followers on LinkedIn? The Novartis company channel or Vas?
Good point. I'm not going to answer that because I don't know.
Okay,
you're right.
Maura
So
said
Vas is
it.
an inspiring
Maura
leader.
said
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Hans, people want to follow people. People do not want to follow any more company accounts. People want to be connected with people. And if you see, for example, in the old world, this is why the world of press releases. Yeah, who reads press releases? I haven't read a press release in the last 5 years. Yeah, and I'm a rather interested person. People want to see and feel and connect with other people. That's exactly what was laying on my tongue. Maura said it. And there was this other part. You were talking about this mainly startup world, which is a wonderful thing. And I am based in this traditional world where they have a huge problem, Hans, because they all say, this is fantastic what you are saying, Hans. And by the way, our HR department did a promotion campaign on the new way of working. And we have posters hanging everywhere, in every meeting room. We even renamed our meeting rooms with fancy new names. And what is missing? It's authenticity. And there I come back to Maura, because Maura, we already had a dialogue on that. The worst thing in command and control is when you are creating a fake new world startup vibe environment, and the people detect it after at least 2 weeks, and that is the worst thing what you can do. That's my opinion.
No, and I understand the nuance. The problem probably that I have personally is ego is out, right? So do it when it's authentic, it passes and it's great. I fully agree, like fast, and you also have like these keynote speakers where you say, well, this is amazing, right? Or indeed the YouTube channels that should stay, and it's people. But what I would like to say is that sometimes there's too many people that get on stage with not the authentic, and that's kind of. But anyhow, so let's not go deeper in that. But I understand the nuance and I agree with that. So definitely with these people, but careful and don't do it for yourself. Do it for what you believe in. Maybe that's the right point.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask again, Maura, on this authenticity topic.
Yeah, sorry, what was your question?
The famous corporate HR department, which says, we have taken in all the insights from Maura, and now we have done a new work poster campaign. And now suddenly we are hip. Please come to us. But in reality, we are still command and control.
Yeah, I mean, we see that happening a lot, and not only with regards to this topic, but also if you talk about inclusivity, you know, everything that is hot right now, sustainability. I feel a lot of companies pay lip service, or they have this little layer of varnish added, but in the end, they still have these older structures in place. But I mean, okay, this is going to lead to a whole other discussion. I think we are already seeing two different labor markets going on. You have the ones who did completely enter the era of cinema, to stay with my analogy, and you have those who are still, you know, applying the theater techniques to cinema. But this would lead us to a whole other discussion, and I'm gonna let you lead the discussion, Natalia. I don't know if you want to go there or not.
Thank you for your remark, Maura. I feel there are still many companies living in the old era, for instance, manufacturing companies. And about YouTube, I feel that YouTube's primary goal is education after all. So Regardless if you're a company or if you're an individual, you will not attract followers if you don't have content. So content is the king. So doesn't really matter if you represent a company, because the followers, they come back to get more content and more valuable information from you after all.
I am so triggered by what you just said right now, because education, I would love to do a whole podcast on this. I think it's the key. There lies the key to a lot of solutions for the problem we face now and we will face in the future. And, you know, the educational system, if we would all take a good look at it and have a good think and really see what we can change there, and with little tweaks here and there we could achieve so much more. I think this is so important. But okay, I don't want to hijack the discussion, but education is super important.
I fully agree what you said about the multicultural teams, and actually, funny enough, academia, that is found to be still seen as the ivory tower and the most conservative working environment out there, is surprisingly progressive when it comes to multicultural teams. So this is the default for us. And academics, since the beginning of time, academics were traveling around, and the academic community was always multiculti. So that's also something I always tell the participants of my courses, to be proud, because this is not a default. Not everyone has that international experience. And if you have that experience and you have easy, like you are skilled in communicating on multiple levels with professionals from multiple cultures, you should say it. You should also say it at the interview. And this is something that is so obvious to us that we often overlook this clear advantage that we have. And now I would like to change the topic a little bit and touch some controversial subject, namely the elephant in the room, the Great Reset. So yeah, since a few months, there is a heated debate on the media what the Great Reset actually means and what we might expect coming in the next few months. So I would like to know what your opinion on this subject is, and what do you think is the vision behind the Great Reset, and what we can expect in the next few years.
Okay, hot topic indeed.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the World Economic Forum, I think they had these meetings. I don't know, they had what, 50 meetings so far, and the latest, you know, they titled the Great Reset. This is not a new idea. This is something I've heard before, many times actually, in many different contexts. I mean, one can, you know, I always ask myself when an idea is launched, what is the agenda behind it? We all have our own agendas. We all, you know, have plans. We have different visions. So it's always interesting to ask yourself what is behind it. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I want to say this loud and clear. I'm not going there. There is a fact. The fact is that we are in a system that is in decline. You know, if you look at, I am a system thinker. If you look at any system, you have this typical evolution of systems. You have, you know, the rise, you have a plateau phase, you have a crumble, you have revolutions in there, you have some kind of decline of the system. We are clearly facing a decline in the system. We are facing huge issues as a society, economically, ecologically, on many, many aspects. So this nobody denies, I think, I hope. However, there are several ideas on how to tackle this. And maybe my personal opinion will also raise a bit of controversy on this. I need to be careful what I say here, but I am not sure if governments who are sometimes failing at doing or at performing their tasks should be the ones coming up with these initiatives and should be the ones launching, you know, alternative systems. Because in the end, look at the agenda of a dying system. The agenda of any dying organism is to try to stay alive somehow. So, you know, I have questions on whether the way this is launched, the people who have launched it are the right ones to lead this revolution, this disruption. However, I do believe a disruption is needed. I have a lot of ideas on it, but I don't want to disrail the conversation. I think it should come from the industry, and I think it should come from bottom up, not top down. That's all I have to say on this topic.
And maybe in this place I should make some little explanation, as I did not introduce this subject before. So during this year's conference in Davos in January, there was a video campaign released by the World Economic Forum, and just sandwiched between other messages and other statements related more to ecology and climate. There was one really warning statement about private property, or the vision of abolishing private property. And the statement was, you won't own anything, you will be happy. And the public opinion was shocked because of that sentence, and that was the genesis of all the conspiracy theories. I can only say that as a mathematician, I see the job market as a dynamical system, and I know that capitalism inherently is unstable, because the wealthy will always get more wealthy and the poor will get poorer, and this is something you cannot really change with a more efficient tax system, because with the mechanisms such as amortization and tax avoidance, which are fully legal, there's always a way for the wealthiest to legally lower their taxes. So there is no way of adjusting the system so that it becomes stable, other than radical change in the rules that govern the economy. But how the Great Reset might pan out in reality, I have absolutely no idea. And Hans, would you like to take a stand on this topic?
Absolutely, and you see me smiling, right? Because there's so many thoughts running through my head now, and I'm the chaotic guy, so I need to structure my thinking, so that's tough. First of all, I'm also not a fan of conspiracy theories. Secondly, let me put something that you might have to cut out, so we'll have to see. But I think if you look at the world leaders and what's happening nowadays in Afghanistan, the people who said you need to withdraw are now saying, yeah, why do you withdraw? So I think there's an ultimate lack of leadership at the political, societal level, at the global scale. Sorry to say so. That said, you can't change that. And I'm never going to go in politics. I maybe whisper into politicians' ears in the hope they pick it up, but that's it. So no conspiracy. So the reset also, I think, yeah, Davos, it's kind of cool. And, you know, we'll see. But yeah, it's kind of nice to put these kind of nice fancy words out there. But for me, it's about if it stays with words and a conference with high level people and princes and economicians and high politicians, and nothing happens, then nothing happens, right? Move your actions where your words are, and be consistent, please. And if you make a mistake, everybody, then don't turn around. And you see it with all the politicians, right? But anyhow, not all, most of the politicians. Okay, that's one. Secondly, you come back to the wealthier get wealthier. Of course, there's a part of the truth there. But what I do believe is if you work hard, you can earn hard. What I really don't like is people who are not willing to work hard, and I respect them. I don't have an issue with that. But then they also don't need to shout for a lot of money, right? Sorry to say so. And if people work hard and they take risks like an entrepreneur, you take a lot of risks, trust me. It weighs on my wife, it weighs on my family, right? I didn't have a salary for 2 years. Who's going to join me, right? Very few people. You're willing to give up your house to get your mission going. And so you need to, so my point is put things in balance. That's one thing. Secondly, I think all of us interested in the subject of this wealthier get wealthier and how will the future look like. Please, I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Rifkin. So he's written some really cool books about the fourth industrial revolution. but please have a look at his book and read it about the zero cost economy. I strongly believe in that.
I think the question needs to be answered in a bit of a broader perspective, and I completely agree with every word almost Hans has said right now. I think one of the biggest questions we will face in the future is not necessarily an existential threat, not even a black swan, as described by Nassim Taleb, but the threat of a machine, the threat of technology, of a machine that might become malevolent and that will know you better than you know yourself. I mean, even the simple AIs that we have nowadays know more about ourselves and own more data than sometimes we know or we remember. So I think the basic principles of democracy and the free market, they won't work anymore in this new world, in this high-tech world. So again, technology plays a very important role because, for example, what would be the point of voting if the machine already knows how you're going to vote and can manipulate you? So it's like we're almost facing a war on manipulation, and data is just a little part in that. So, you know, what would be the solution? So technology, in essence, it's amoral, right? It's neutral. And luckily, there is something cyclical going on in the world. And I strongly believe in this Hegelian dialectics, you know. So I feel a counter movement will come or is already on the way, and this balance will be restored in the end. But if you look at, for instance, AI tools, because I gave that example, now they are created to monitor mostly activity of individuals or companies. But, you know, imagine the counter movement to that. We can point the guns back, and we could also easily create, and they are being created right now, AI tools to monitor the activity of governments, of, you know, banks, of systems, bigger systems. And voters could in the future evaluate if a politician or a government serves them well. And this is a way, for instance, to tackle corruption, but this would be a way to tackle a lot of the societal issues we are facing right now. So I think in the future, what we really need to develop is sort of this antivirus mind, you know, talking from a machine perspective, where technology serves us and not the other way around. And when I mean us, I mean, you know, I mean decentral, in a decentral way. I mean the people. I don't mean the power structures anymore. So yeah, this was my 2 cents on it.
I fully agree with this statement, and I have to say there's this Danish method to evaluate or predict whether the companies manipulate their data in the stock market and if they might potentially fall in the future. Maybe there might be also a method to estimate whether governments are manipulating their records, public records. Anyways, my next question in this discussion is, let's talk a little bit about loyalty, but from the other perspective. So we were previously talking about loyalty as seen by employees, but let's talk a little bit about loyalty as seen from the side of the employer. So do employers today in 2021, do employers still expect their employees to be loyal? And I'm asking because there is like really heavy migration happening in the job market right now. So employees don't seem to be as closely bound to their employers as it used to be 5, 10, 20 years ago. So who would like to take a stand in this discussion?
Of course, employers expect loyalty. Employers would love to have loyalty from their employees. That's number one on the wish list. Now, the question is, do they earn this loyalty? And depending from company to company, you have many different answers. Now, talking about this loyalty topic, sometimes there is a dangerous misconception also, and that begins always when companies begin to describe themselves as a family. That's a very, very slippery and dangerous slope to go into, from my point of view, because a family from my point of view, is about unconditional love. And the relationships within a company are not unconditional. And I find it very, very dangerous to, on a sunny day, to create the illusion of a family, which is a wrong illusion and which turns out to be wrong when the days are not sunny anymore. That's my take on that, including loyalty.
Right.
But Thomas, I really like what you said, because it's just, of course, you expect loyalty. If there's no loyalty, come on. What I like a lot now also, I stopped operationally in April. And even now, right, I send notes to the people, right? The new CEO, the new marketing lady, I see who they hired. I'm still loyal, right? I want people to be successful. And also when I hire people, this is very important for me. And it's really cool, right? When you run into a bug and your VP engineering left, you can still call that person. That's loyalty, right? And then they don't charge half a day of a consultancy fee. No, they said, oh, great, and can we catch up? And then boom, boom, and do this and do that. That's loyalty. That's ultimate loyalty. You want that. But it's also, as Thomas said, right? So this kind of family thingy. I understand it, but I'm also not a fan of it, right? Because in fact, what I learned even more, and you know, it's not always sunny. My wife tells that, right? She often joins me when I'm on a panel or a mission, because she's also into business and digital and HR. She's in fact the HR expert. I'm not. When I give talks, she always said, you only talk about the positive things. Well, this is maybe kind of about the loyalty. Is when you do a startup, is also make sure that there's an exit if you don't agree. It's like, you know, you have two founders. One of the founders wants to go B2C and the other one wants to go B2B. And you need to have one vision still. So how do you match that up? So also loyalty goes also like in how do we exit when we don't agree anymore? So talk that through. So that's why I'm mentoring a lot of startups and saying, make sure that you also know your exit from day one and discuss that. And that's for me ultimate loyalty, because you need to think more about the worst things than about good things. But because when everything is kumbaya, it's easy, right? When it turns out worse, then you know you get the pressure from the investors. People are leaving. Your runway is getting shorter. Startup-ish, but you see the same things in big corporates, right? If a visionary leader leaves, you know there's something happening. Right. But loyalty is ultimate, and I also love Thomas. It's something I use a lot as a founder. I said this is the nicest title you can have. You cannot ask for it. You just have it, and it is unconditional love, and I love it. So there's a part of unconditional love there.
Perfect. But what I mean is employees now migrate heavily, even though there might be no conflict of interest in the project. They just by default come for one project and then move on to another one in another company right after they're done. So how do you feel about that as an employer?
There's nothing wrong about that. There's nothing wrong about that. In fact, now when I'm going to start a new company, I'm going to outsource fully my IT, right? And like there's great companies who build their business model on that. There's a one in Flanders, Lemon companies from Philippe Smet, and they help you kickstart it. And you know what? It's very difficult to hire good people, because that's maybe something better for the subject. How do you attract these talents? How do you keep these talents? Yeah. But yes, you know, if it's talented people, you know, it's the vision and the authenticity and the atmosphere that keeps them. And challenging projects, right? If you're not innovative enough and you have an innovative person, then that person will leave, right? Is make sure that there's a match. It's like a lot of people then say we want to hire a UX designer. It's kind of user experience, right? The designer. But if you don't have like 5 days a week work of that person will leave because they won't feel happy. So people leaving is fine as long as you clearly agree on what needs to be delivered. And coming back to the other part of your question in IT, I don't care where they work and how long they work. What I do care about is that they're happy and that they deliver what's been expected. And if they don't deliver, that they communicate about it so we can help. That's the 3 things. I don't care about anything else. So I tell them, go to the fitness when there's no people if you like, right? I don't care, but put it in your agenda, be transparent about it. When your kiddo is sick, just put 1 day off, right? But if there's a WhatsApp and something urgent, say, I can't, but I'll do it at 11 p.m. tonight when my kid is in bed or when my wife is back from her work. So transparency is important. But where you work and how you, I don't care. Do it with passion, do it in a team, communicate well, and deliver.
I'm still so curious on the take of Maura on the loyalty topic.
Sure. Well, I wanted to quote the founder of AngelList here, Naval Ravikant. I'm a big fan of his mindset. And he always says you need to hire high integrity, high intelligence, and high energy people, whether you are looking for co-founders and you're a founder yourself, or looking for, somebody to work in the back office, doesn't matter. Look for these qualities in a person. And I agree, high integrity is super important because it all contributes to the loyalty as well. Now, Naval says high intelligence. I would replace that by high talent or highly talented and highly passionate, because if you have this combination of talents with passion and drive, this is really limitless. You have an amazing co-worker in your company. And high energy is also very important because it has to do with motivation. So I think these key elements are always somewhere in the mix, and they contribute to loyalty as well. Now, of course, the secret is, the company culture. Do you have a purpose? Do you align these workers to collaborate, on the same page? Do you empower them? Do you give them the right tools? I think it's a whole ecosystem, and when it is done right, you can create, even for short-term project teams, you can create this high loyalty and high efficiency and effectivity within your teams. So I think Hans has said, churn is not an issue. It's okay if the person did their job and they leave on good terms and it's time for the new thing. It's fine. You still have the contact. People work with people, right? So this is why the human side is very important. I guess that's what I had to say.
One of my good friends, founding CEO Jonathan Berten from RoboVision, they're also doing fantastic in Flanders. He says the same, and he knows he hires top talented, high energy, good performing people, but they leave after 2 years. But he said that's how they are. They want to start something themselves, and he's proud of it. So that's the mentality, and that's another part of loyalty. It's not about you're in my company and only my company do it. That's the old school. It's kind of the talents need to be able to grow, right? And yeah, we should have invited Jonathan here because he's very good at that too as a CEO, to hire the talents but to let them grow.
Lastly, short question for a wrap up. We live in times of a global confusion, and it's really hard to figure out what is true, what is not true on the media. So what is your recommendation next to, as you will probably say, following the right people? I can predict. But what is your recommendation for the channels of information that we might follow as employees that give a fair picture of how the job market is developing at the moment?
All right. Well, again, contextualizing a bit before getting into the answer. I think before you go and look for a job, you need a strategy. You need to find out what it is you love, because there is a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people are pivoting or are changing paths right now. So, sit down with a blank piece of paper, write down 50 things you're super good at, 50 things you love, and, sit with that for a while and ask yourself how this fits into your life vision, and then how it can fit into a working strategy that is future-proof. So it's very important to be aware of your passions, of your talents, be open-minded. Again, education and learning. I think we are living in an era where you are nothing without continuous improvement and learning. You have to, if you stand still, you lose value on the market. So you always need to be comfortable with this growth and the pains that go along with growth. Learn how to navigate your emotion through it, because I think this is also a big problem on the labor markets, but in society in general, people are struggling and they don't really know how to deal with this. I would say, be aware of where you are, be aware of your strengths, but also be aware of your weaknesses, and be aware of what you have to do, of this bridge you need to gap, the gap you need to bridge, sorry. So, if you need to follow a training first before looking for a new job. Do whatever it is you need to do to go and to get to the next level. Now, this being said, you really need your LinkedIn profile to be spick and span. Especially right now, they have a new algorithm. They have optimized the search features on their. Recruiters and company will be able to find you a lot more easily. And you can always go in the job section. A lot of companies are very actively hiring on there. So that would be my #1 recommendation still. I would say avoid, it's maybe not a very politically correct thing to say, but avoid websites like Glassdoor, where, you know, employees that sometimes have been fired, or usually there has been a friction with the company. They are usually the ones leaving reviews on the company. It's not always an accurate, I would say it doesn't give an accurate picture of the reality. So be careful with reading reviews on Glassdoor. And the most important thing to do is, yes, like you said, follow the right people and reach out directly to the people. People work with people. Find out the companies that you like to work in. If the values of these companies align with yours, that's awesome. But find out the teams you're going to work with, and who are the leaders within these teams. Follow them, comment actively. You know, networking, I always stress this part, but networking is really part of being a professional in 2021 and the future. So network, reach out to people, make meaningful connections, and this is how you are planting seeds for the future. And this is serendipity. This is how you are creating opportunities for yourself.
It's networking, it's your LinkedIn profile with the authenticity. Don't push it, stay close to what you believe in. I would say writing down 50 things is a lot. So I would start with 10, 15 max. But yeah, write down what your values are, what you like, what keeps you going, what keeps you energized. And yes, it's not always kumbaya, right? There will be moments that you have to do things that you don't like to do, but that's part of the game. But don't keep doing that for 3 to 5 years and nag about it. When you don't like it, tell your manager, I don't like this, but I'm willing to do this. This is the loyalty, but how long will I stay? Well, you try and find somebody else to help me. So communication. But for the job market, yes, it changed where we find talents. In fact, I'm mentoring quite some startups now. And the advice I give them to find talents, it's not to go to the headhunters. It's costful, it takes time, and it's very difficult to find a match, right? But you know, when you have a good visibility of your company, but also of yourself, people follow you, they believe in you, and people come to you. And I see a lot, the best jobs we found was after a talk, when people follow me and said, Hans, we follow on to Force, it's been in the news, we really like your mission, so I'm open in 2 months, I'm not so happy anymore, so can we talk? Perfect. They came to us. That's also marketing. I tell startups, marketing is not about paying for a fancy website and a fancy logo, right? It has to be spick and span. Maura is right? So don't be crappish, because that's not the style. But when you do it well, do it concise. People will follow you. And if they don't follow you, you're not interesting. There won't be a match anyhow. So there's a fit there. So yeah, I found it easy to kind of find people. It's more difficult, of course, when you grow and scale up. So it's easier in the startupish way. But be on the conferences, right? Be on these panels. You know, people say, why are you on panels? I said, first of all, I get energy. I inspire people. I find new startups that are interesting, that I might be connected with, you know, mentoring, advising, maybe angel investor, we'll see. But also sometimes like people come to me and say, oh, that's a great idea. That's decentralized web for patients. Tell me when you start and I'm helping you. And so I know the first time I will get online in September or October of that, I probably could do 10, 12 hires. Cool. And that's the point, I think.
Okay, in this place, I would like to cordially thank to our distinguished speakers. It was a fantastic discussion. Great to have you. And to all of you guys who came to the end of this episode, thank you so much for watching. And the information, contact information from our speakers is given below. Please check it out. Please contact on LinkedIn and please follow, because these are awesome leaders, influential voices in the space. And of course, also look up their Clubhouse profiles, very interesting conversations happening over there. So thank you so much for watching once again. If you would like to get more of this type of content, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. We will be happy to answer your questions. And have a great day, everyone. Till next time.